Final thoughts on Kagurashi-hen. I basically saw none of that coming. Let's start with Hanyu. I was pretty sure they established that she'd basically disappeared and only existed as an afterimage, but then somehow or another she powers up to fight Aowa, and at the very end you see her sitting back at the shrine as if nothing had ever happened. I expected regular Satsuko and Witch Satsuko to fight for control of Satsuko's body, but at the very end, Witch Satsuko just gave it right back up. I expected there to be more meaning to the world in which Satsuko was the one who went crazy, presumably from the injection, but maybe she was faking it. But regardless, we didn't get any explanation as to why she chose herself or if there were any risks associated with that. I was hoping we would get a little bit more detail on that world. I expected Satsuko to be unable to kill Rika so long as Rika had proven that she loved Hinamizawa from the bottom of her heart, but it seemed that Satsuko could have killed Rika at any time for any reason, and the only reason she didn't is because she thought Rika was going to go along until Satsuko got caught being the mastermind behind everything, which kicked off this whole magical meta battle, which you could reasonably interpret as never having happened in the first place. I expected Rika to somehow checkmate Satsuko by exploiting the rule that Satsuko would have to kill Rika first before moving on to the next world, but instead Rika simply moved Satsuko's heart, so they just held hands and sang Kumbaya. I expected Aowa to get kind of bored with Satsuko's shenanigans and then move on to the next world simply of her own free will, but of course she got struck down by Hanyu, which turned her into some kind of lowly. I found the last half of the last episode kind of satisfying. It felt like we got a true ending, and who knows if this really is the end of Higurashi. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching another OVA here or there, but I don't see what the point of another long TV series would be after this ending. And in fact, I don't even know what the point of this TV series was aside from developing Satsuko's witch so they could reuse her in some other part of the Nakukoro ni universe. As far as the implications go for the rest of the universe, I don't even want to think about them right now. I've always said that I don't like thinking of these as something other than a self-contained story, and I don't like witchifying everything because it cheapens what the characters go through when you say that at the end of the day, it was all a witch's game. Maybe Witch Satsuko is an incarnation of Lambda Delta, or maybe she's a completely new separate existence, or maybe she's a piece in the game of Featherine Augustus Aurora. Honestly, I don't care. Now my final thoughts on Higurashi Go and Sotsu. Overall together they're about a single plus, which on my scale basically means that they're fun to watch, but at the same time they don't really stand out. And yeah, of course compared to the original Higurashi, that is a disappointment. The first three arcs of Higurashi Go, those being the question arcs for Reina, Mion, and Satsuko, those were good for the final episode of each arc, but they didn't justify all of that repetition leading up to them. Then the last two arcs of Higurashi Go, those were fun, they had all new material, and they showed us kind of everyone's life after Higurashi Kai. They also revealed that Satsuko was the perpetrator, and so it gave you a new perspective for thinking about all of the question arcs that came before it. So then we get into Higurashi Sotsu, and I'm kind of pumped up for it. I'm really expecting a lot from these answer arcs, but only Satsuko's answer arc really lived up to the hype. For the other arcs, she's not really doing much of anything behind the scenes, and so Reina's arc basically turns into a drama instead of a mystery, and Mion's arc basically turns into her version of O.J. Simpson's If I Did It. Once we caught up to the point where Satsuko pointed the gun at Rika in the classroom, I was hoping we would get a full arc of Rika trying to figure out how to take Satsuko down, but instead we got an episode and a half of an all-out brawl instead of a chess match. Needless to say, that isn't the brilliant mystery storytelling we would normally expect from Higurashi. But at the end of the day, it is still Higurashi. I like the characters, I like the story, I like the world, and I would watch more. But from now on, it's not going to get a free pass. The free pass I gave Higurashi long ago has now been cashed in.